Have you ever thought about that moment after work, in a certain month, when you're pondering what to do that evening? Maybe having dinner with family, relaxing with a movie, or simply playing a game. And then, suddenly, fate strikes. The elevator stops abruptly, plunging you into darkness and suffocating stillness. At that critical moment, would you remain calm enough to handle the situation? Most people encountering this would likely try calling a family member or scream for help. But how terrifying would it be if you didn't have your phone with you, and even after screaming until your voice goes hoarse, there's no response? 5 minutes pass, then 10, still no sign of anyone. Then an hour passes, even 10 hours, and you're still trapped in that steel box, struggling to breathe. On the first night, you wake up after dozing off, only to find yourself still stuck there. The second night is the same, and so are the nights that follow. By the time the 30th night arrives, would you still be alive? In the city? On the first Sunday morning of March 2015, people resumed their usual routines after nearly a month-long Lunar New Year holiday. 2 elevator maintenance workers were among them. They brought along their tools and headed to a 15-story building in the city to continue their maintenance work. Walking and chatting, they seemed fairly relaxed. However, as they reached the elevator, things began to take a turn. One of the workers suddenly felt a chill down his spine, sensing an unpleasant odor emanating from inside the elevator. Thinking it was just the usual smell of garbage, they decided to power up the elevator. But then, the unimaginable happened. Within 3 seconds, as the elevator doors partially opened, they found a woman lying motionless, her hands stained with blood. Once the incident was discovered, the Asian City Police and the building's safety supervision team quickly arrived at the scene to begin their investigation. The area was sealed off to collect evidence. Preliminary examinations identified the victim as a woman between 40 and 50 years old. According to testimonies from residents in the building, the victim was named Wu Mao Mao, 43, who lived with her family on the 15th floor. Neighbors described Wu as someone with unstable mental health and frequent psychological issues. This caused her life to be quite isolated, with little interaction with those around her. A preliminary check on the victim's body showed no signs of injury. The cause of death was likely due to prolonged starvation and severe health deterioration. Based on this information, the police initially ruled out the possibility of a homicide, leaning towards the hypothesis of an elevator accident. It is possible that Wu Mao Mao encountered an issue while using the elevator due to her unstable mental state, or because of some technical malfunction. However, this is only an initial assumption. To arrive at a definitive answer, the investigation team needed to continue gathering evidence and conducting more thorough checks. The police subsequently contacted the victim's family to inquire further about her mental health at the time of the incident. Wu's mother and siblings were overcome with emotion as they explained that Mao Mao had had many conflicts with her husband due to marrying young. As a result, they divorced shortly after the wedding. Since then, Mao Mao's mental state had been unstable. This was why Mao Mao, despite being older, still lived with her family. However, about a month ago, Mao Mao had not returned home. The family panicked and searched for her, but there was no trace until the police came to their door and informed them of her sudden death. A resident living on the 10th floor, upon hearing the news, was frantic and told the police that nearly a month ago, she had heard strange noises coming from the area around the elevator where the incident occurred. However, as it was reported to be under maintenance and since everyone was using the other elevator in the building, she didn't pay much attention. At the time, she thought the noise was just a normal occurrence during any elevator malfunction. Based on the 2 testimonies, along with the time of death report from the coroner, the police noted that Wu Mao Mao had died a month earlier. This meant she must have endured days of hunger and isolation in the elevator while people outside were celebrating the 2015 Lunar New Year. The question arises, as mentioned by the residents, the elevator where the victim met her fate was under repair. How could someone with Wu's unstable mental health have entered the elevator and ended up trapped there? To answer this question, the investigation team began inspecting the building's elevator system, including its safety mechanisms, potential technical faults, and the maintenance history from the last 3 months. The recorded information indicated that the elevator had been out of service and stopped between the 10th and 11th floors for maintenance several months prior. What is noteworthy here is that before the Lunar New Year holiday, there was a shocking level of negligence at this apartment building. Specifically, on January 30th, 2015, 2 elevator maintenance workers were called to inspect and repair the elevator for the building. Upon arrival, both workers immediately shut down the elevator to begin their tasks. During the inspection, they turned on the power to carry out technical checks and replace the necessary components. After completing their work, they were about to turn off the power for the final time before leaving, and this is when the issue occurred. According to the statement from one of the maintenance workers, on the day the incident happened, after finishing part of their job, they failed to follow mandatory safety procedures. That is, instead of carefully opening the elevator doors to check if anyone was inside, they assumed that no one would be foolish enough to enter the elevator while it had been under repair all day. This blind confidence clouded their judgment, causing them to overlook the worst-case scenario. Moreover, on the day of the incident, it was the day before the Lunar New Year, a time when everyone was eager to return home to prepare a reunion dinner with their families. The 2 maintenance workers were no exception. They were caught up in their excitement and impatience, leading them into a trap of negligence. Due to their complacency, they hastily turned off the elevator power without conducting a thorough check. Both workers happily returned home, unaware that their irresponsible actions had cost a life. When the tragic incident was revealed, the residents of the building were outraged by the irresponsibility of the 2 elevator repair workers. They held several urgent meetings, demanding that the building management take decisive action to prevent such tragedies from happening in the future. They called for stricter maintenance regulations, more frequent and effective safety checks. Specifically, they demanded that the authorities investigate the incident thoroughly and bring those responsible for this tragedy to justice. Due to a single act of negligence, Wu Mao Mao became the victim, enduring 30 days of agony without food or water. A condition that, according to members of the American Society of Bariatric Surgery, people can survive for weeks without food, but at the very least, they must have access to water. Because within a few hours of not having water, a person can begin to experience symptoms of dehydration such as thirst and dizziness. As time progresses, these symptoms can lead to more severe conditions like rapid heartbeat, organ failure, and delirium. Medical evidence clearly shows how Wu Mao Mao suffered from the lack of water. Medical evidence clearly shows. Not to mention that the elevator lacked light and ventilation, which further worsened Wu Mao Mao's suffocating and anxious state at the time. Additionally, the inability to communicate and receive help led to absolute isolation, heightening the victim's feelings of loneliness and despair. Perhaps that is why, when she was found, the detail of Wu Mao Mao's hands covered in dried blood deeply saddened everyone. Furthermore, the police later discovered scratch marks on the inside of the elevator doors, serving as evidence of the unfortunate woman's desperate attempts to survive. Though they were in vain, the scene remained haunting, not only terrifying the surrounding residents but also leaving an indelible mark on the police officers involved in the investigation, who could never forget it. The purpose of elevator maintenance was supposed to ensure the safety of the building's residents. However, with one act of negligence, the 2 maintenance workers allowed the situation to escalate, resulting in the tragic death of Wu Mao Mao, and no effort could have saved her. Both were later charged with manslaughter and ordered to compensate for their negligence. As the writer and philosopher Benjamin Franklin once said, "Well done is better than well said." While this saying may not apply to every situation, it certainly reflects this case with brutal honesty. The 30-day tragedy of screaming in the elevator is not only a testament to the cruelty of negligence in the workplace, but also a reminder that every action, no matter how small, can lead to unforeseeable consequences.